No regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. So yesterday was the opening day of the legislative session in North Carolina. And as we've discussed with Paul Valone from Grassroots NC, it was also the day that the group delivered thousands of petitions to the Senate President Pro Tem, urging him to take up Constitutional Cary. You've got a House bill that was filed last year, started making its way through the legislative process, but was kind of stymied when the Senate President said, we already passed the permit to purchase repeal. I'm not sure we really need to do anything else here. And that was kind of a signal, right, to other lawmakers, including those in the House, that, well, even if we do pass this bill, it might just get sidelined in the Senate. So since Phil Berger made those comments, the primary objective of Grassroots NC has been to persuade the Senate President to reverse his position and to allow the Constitutional Cary bill to proceed. North Carolina has 2-year sessions. This is the second year of their 2-year session. So it is possible. We don't have to start all over again this year. And as you'll hear from Paul Valone with Grassroots NC, yesterday's petition drop and the press conference that was held may have already started to have an impact, a positive impact on the legislation. Take a look and a listen. Paul, thanks so much for coming back on the show. It's good to see you again.
It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So the last time we talked, we were discussing the plans to drop off a petition signed by gun owners to Phil Berger, state Senate president, because he was, it sounds like the real roadblock, the barrier between lawmakers in the Senate considering this Constitutional Cary bill and not. So yesterday, the opening day of the session, you're there with a lot of gun owners in Raleigh to drop off that petition. Tell me about it. How'd it go?
It went actually quite well. Phil Berger, the Senate President Pro Tem, is probably the most powerful man in the state, perhaps more powerful than the governor, since our governor has a relatively weak charter. So we had understood that Senator Berger was the reason that this House Bill 189 for permitless concealed carry was stalled. Because last year, he said, and I quote, "We have passed a substantial bill dealing with some concerns about the Second Amendment. We have done away with the pistol purchase permit system, which was the number one goal of many of the gun rights groups," which is true, "for a long period of time. I don't know if there is a need for us to delve into additional issues dealing with guns." And as you quoted me saying, and by the way, I've used this from your source many times, I guess it's not a Bill of Rights anymore, but a Bill of Needs. And the person who's going to decide whether we need constitutional carry is Phil Berger, self-appointed arbiter of needs. So yesterday, on the opening of the second year of the 2-year session, we took a bunch of people, had a press conference in front of Phil Berger's office, and dropped a petition with about, let's put it this way, it was about 7,000 signatures. We had to bring it in by hand truck. And I'm happy to say that whether he reads them or not, he will have to dispose of them by hand truck. So in any case, we made our point, and the point is that the Republicans in North Carolina are falling behind other states, Republicans in other states. 29 states have passed constitutional carry. We are long overdue for running this bill. The Republicans have a supermajority, so they can override the inevitable Governor Roy Cooper veto, because, of course, Roy has never met a gun he wouldn't ban.
Right.
But in any case, we want them to do it now. They whine about Republicans in marginal districts, and the Senate says, well, it's stuck in the House. Well, yeah, it's stuck in the House, but the reason it's stuck in the House is Senator Phil Berger, because if he won't move the bill, nobody moves the bill. So the bottom line is we are applying pressure to him, and we will now ratchet up the pressure for the short session. They have said that they will not deal with this bill in the short session. We beg to differ.
All right. So how long is the short session this year, Paul?
They never exactly tell you how long it's going to be.
Okay.
They do, however, want enough time to go out and campaign in November. So, wild guess says probably not beyond July, but that could easily change depending on some of the things that come up.
Okay.
So we think we've got about at least a 50-50 shot of getting them to change their mind on this particular issue. And I'm happy to say that Phil Berger yesterday said to the Raleigh News and Observer that they would talk about this and within his caucus. And the fact that he is now willing to talk about it tells us that we are making inroads.
Absolutely. And if he's talking about it with the caucus, it seems to me like then the next step is to expand gun owner outreach to not just Senator Berger's office, but to your own state representative, your own state senator, and say, listen, you got to get behind this too, right? I mean, because now we don't want Berger or, House leadership to say, well, I mean, we talked about it, but, people just decided this wasn't the year, right? Every legislator needs to hear from gun owners right now.
Absolutely correct. And as a matter of fact, the way we set it up, when somebody sends an email, they can send it to all Republican members of the North Carolina General Assembly. So the net result is that the Republicans get thousands of emails, thousands. I had one legislator who got so annoyed at the end of the session, she forwarded thousands of those emails to my personal email address. Gotta admire her sense of humor.
Yeah,
but
right.
In any case, yes, that's correct. We will begin applying pressure both to the House, particularly now that Berger has made that comment that they're willing to talk about it. So we're going to say, let's talk. And we're going to say it to the Speaker of the House, Representative Tim Moore, and Speaker Tim Moore, and the members of the House, as well as the Senate, because, of course, House Bill 189 actually resides right now in the House Rules Committee. Last year, it passed two committees. It passed Rules, and it passed Judiciary, and it passed Rules, only to get stalled at the last minute and pulled from the calendar where it was scheduled for a floor vote at exactly the same time that Senator Berger made the comment I just recounted.
Okay, so the next step would be to bring this bill to the floor. It doesn't need to go through any more House committees, right? That would be, it's up to the Speaker now to bring this bill up for a vote.
Unfortunately, it now becomes slightly more complicated than that.
Okay.
Under the rules that the Republicans set up for the General Assembly, essentially, if it hasn't cleared one chamber by the crossover deadline, which was in May of last year, it's not eligible for consideration unless it has a financial consideration, a fiscal note. And given that the Speaker required us to, in order to move the bill, to add a nominal training provision that just online training in laws governing carrying concealed firearms, no database, nobody's on a list, you don't have to carry proof, nothing. All right. So I would say adding a fiscal note would be adding a few $1,000s to cover that training system. And the sponsor has indicated his willingness to do that. They need to take it up in the Rules Committee, add the fiscal note, and then shunt it to the floor.
Okay. All right. So there is time to get this done. I mean, this isn't a matter of timing. This is a matter of will, right?
That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. And I will say, Senator Berger is a willful individual. When he makes up his mind, it's very difficult to change it. That said, however, once upon a time, I believe it was 2012, he refused to give us restaurant carry. They gave us an omnibus gun bill with a bunch of improvements to the concealed carry law, but not restaurant carry. And so by the time we were done, Senator Berger had to do a little rug dance on a popular radio talk show, and at which point he said something similar to what he said right now. He said, well, it's not a matter of if we're going to pass restaurant carry, but when. Now is not the right time, yada, yada. And in the following session, he did give us restaurant carry. He responded by passing restaurant carry.
Well, I mean, that's good. But, again, the whole timing thing. Look, I understand it's an election year. I understand Republicans are worried about, marginal districts. I have to say, and you don't even have to respond if you don't want to, Paul, but I have to say that I think the GOP's moves, and I don't even know what specifically they're doing in North Carolina, but nationwide, I would say that the GOP's moves to restrict abortion are hurting them far more than their moves to protect the right to keep and bear arms. I think, honestly, Constitutional Cary would be a compelling reason for Republicans to go out and vote for these candidates in the fall. I'm curious, what if anything, has Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson said about Constitutional Cary?
Well, the lieutenant governor has told me personally that he will push for constitutional carry and obviously sign it once if elected. All right. What he has not done, and we'd like to see him do, is to come out and make a public statement to that effect. And that's become it's become a rub in some areas of the gun rights movement. I mean, make no mistake, Mark Robinson will be a pro-gun governor, and there is absolutely no doubt that he would be considerably better than Josh Stein, our current anti-gun attorney general. If Stein wins that election, we have a problem. The best we're going to be looking at, if the Republicans maintain a supermajority, they can override his vetoes. But if they don't, then we're looking at 4 years of stalemate.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a great concern about Republicans losing complete control of either chamber in November, given the fact that they've got super majorities, but they could lose that veto-proof majority, right? All it takes is just a swing of 1 or 2 seats. And then if you've got a Democrat governor, as you say, everything sort of gets stalled out. And these are the calculations, right? Now, look, these are elected officials. Obviously, election cycles matter to them, maybe more so than they do to the voters, because we expect them to do their job, even in an election year, right? And if that means taking a vote that they consider to be a hard vote to defend a fundamental civil right, listen, I'm sorry, Representative, I'm sorry, Senator, but that's your job. Yep. Do your job. And if you won't do your job, then you're not giving me a reason to vote for you.
Well, I put it even in more succinct terms, and you are absolutely right, by the way. What I said yesterday to all the news outlets during the press conference is they whine about Republicans in marginal districts. I don't care. Okay, not my problem. We gave them the supermajority, and here's how. Last year, when we ran the purchase permit repeal, a couple of Democrats walked. They didn't vote for it, but instead they did not attend the session with the intention of not being put on record. And as a result, we got the 6/10 supermajority necessary to override the veto. Well, one of those, Representative Tricia Cotham, got so many death threats from her own people, she switched to Republican. And so now they have a real supermajority, where before they had 71 with a requirement for 72, they now have 72. And the reason was the vote on our purchase permit repeal. So as I said to them yesterday, in the vernacular, dance with the one what brung you. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I wish you the very best of luck this session, Paul. Anything we can do to, help keep folks informed and engaged. You've got an open mic anytime you want to join us on the program. But I mean, really, what is the action item for North Carolina gun owners right now?
Well, first off, what they need to do is subscribe to our email legislative alerts. We don't spam them and we don't sell lists. Go to grnc.org and there will be a link there to sign up for legislative alerts. We don't even require they be members. But in coming days, those legislative alerts will tell them which legislators to contact and what to say. We make it very simple. We know that the legislative process is actually designed to be complicated to exclude people like you and I. And so consequently, we make the job simple so that people can make their voice heard in less than 5 minutes.
All right. Paul Valone with Grassroots NC. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Thank you for all your activism, and I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
And thank you for getting the word out, Cam.
My pleasure. Thanks, Paul. My thanks to Paul for joining us on the program. And again, if you're a North Carolina gun owner, please make sure that your state senator has heard from you. State representative too, but really right now the action is in the state Senate. All right, let's turn our attention now to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a story out of Georgia. WSB in Atlanta reporting a man arrested in Fulton County allegedly committing crimes while on probation Now, that in itself is hardly newsworthy. I'm honestly shocked that this individual received probation for his previous crimes. According to the sheriff's office, 26-year-old Quatez Elliott, convicted just last year on charges of aggravated assault, armed robbery, aggravated stalking, burglary, and cruelty to children. So what the hell was he doing out on probation? Elliott was arrested on Tuesday of this week. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office says he was arrested after, quote, continuing his criminal behavior, resulting in additional criminal charges out of the city of South Fulton and Clayton County. He was arrested by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigation Division Fugitive Apprehension Support Team. He's now in custody at the Fulton County Jail. No word on what his newest charges are all about, but Sheriff Pat Labatt in Fulton County said after he was convicted last year, this young man was given a second chance by being sentenced to serve probation. However, he chose to continue his criminal behavior. Our office will continue to protect innocent victims of crime and uphold the law, and by apprehending those who violate them. Again, my question is really simple. You know, this is the type of sentence you'd expect to hear or see in, you know, George Gascon's Los Angeles County, or, you know, maybe up in Philadelphia, where the District Attorney Larry Krasner has taken a soft on crime approach until very recently. Now he's starting to get tough on crime a little bit. But again, I mean, we're talking armed robbery, aggravated assault, aggravated stalking, burglary, cruelty to children. What on earth allowed prosecutors to offer some type of deal if a deal was made? Now, WSB reports that Elliott was convicted in 2023 on those charges, so maybe a deal wasn't even offered. In that case, why on earth would a judge sentence Elliott to nothing more than probation for that litany of violent crimes instead of sending him to prison for even one of the charges that he was convicted of? This is just absolutely outrageous. And, you know, looking at this, Georgia's got great gun laws, but it might be time for lawmakers to take another look at what's going on in the criminal justice system, because situations like this simply shouldn't exist. All right, today's armed citizen story, also from Georgia, also from WSB in Atlanta. I just had to kill somebody. 911 call reveals new details after a man shot and killed an armed robber. Now, this defensive gun use took place a couple of weeks ago, but the 911 call just released. It was Hateville, Georgia. Just after 9:30 on April 15th, police in the town responded to a reported shooting at the Atlantic Aerotropolis apartment complex. When officers arrived, they interviewed a person who lives there. He told police that he was forced to shoot one man who tried to rob him when he was walking out to his car. In the 911 transcript, you can see the victim described as heard breathing heavily. As he told the dispatcher he was forced to fire in self-defense. He said his car was parked next to mine. He got out of his car, said, "Hey, bro, don't move," pointed a gun at me. I pulled my gun, and I shot. The victim reported seeing a second suspect, who was later identified as a man named Alton Coleman. Witnesses reported that they saw Coleman running towards a nearby church after the shooting took place. Body camera video released to WSB in Atlanta shows Coleman peeing on a sidewalk as police got out of their cars. Guns drawn. They were able to take him into custody with that incident. He's now charged with murder and aggravated assault for taking part in a criminal activity that led to the death of his alleged accomplice. WSB reports that a search of court records revealed that Coleman had a lengthy arrest record dating back to 2011. The deceased individual, 39-year-old Lando Carter, also had a criminal history. The Federal Bureau of Prisons confirmed that Carter was sentenced in the Northern District of Georgia to a 166-month sentence for interference with commerce by threats or violence, as well as possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime of violence. He was released from federal custody on May 26th of last year. So again, both of these individuals already known to law enforcement. The tenant, by the way, who acted in self-defense, not facing any charges there in Georgia. Again, he was just simply on his way to his car when he was confronted by somebody with a gun who tried to rob him. Thankfully, he had a gun of his own and emerged from that encounter unharmed. Finally, today, our good deed of the day, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Some police officers in Detroit, Michigan, who not only helped save an elderly woman from falling over, but they ended up buying her some groceries as well. There's the woman in question reuniting with the officers who lended a helping hand. Denise Willingham was on her way into a pharmacy. She was using her walker, and she said there was a gust of wind that all of a sudden blew her walker away. And so there she is, just standing, trying not to lose her balance. Again, gusty wind, so she's getting ready to fall. But she said these four officers sort of appeared out of nowhere. Officer D'Angelo Willis Mustafa said, we basically just jumped into action. We had to. I thought about it like she's my mom. Willingham said these two officers, they ran out there, they grabbed my walker, they grabbed me, and they kept me from falling. She said I was terribly shaken. Two other officers on patrol then hurried over to see if they could help out, make sure that she was okay. And then they decided, you know what, let's help her go shopping here. Officer Hassan El Halani from the Detroit Police Department said, I want to grab the items for her off the top shelf, things of that nature. He said it was the holy month of Ramadan at the time, so I wanted to do good deeds for the community and also serve. That's what I'm here for. So after the officers helped Willingham there in the pharmacy with her shopping, they then offered to pay for her groceries. Willingham says, we talked about life. And then when I got to the front, I said, y'all have been fantastic, all of you. And he did like this. Ms. Willingham, would you allow it? And it would be our honor for the Detroit Police to pay for your items today? She said, I said, what? He said, would love to. So, nice. A very good deed. Officers later learned that Willingham had been a part of their police family. Had actually signed up to be a neighborhood police officer years ago. Officer Omar Nashal with the Detroit Police says, I'm glad she felt safe with us, taken care of. That's what the Detroit Police Department is all about. Well, again, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to lend a helping hand. And yes, do some good public relations by picking up her grocery tab as well. These four officers with the Detroit Police Department, we thank you for your very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I'm looking forward to being back with you again next week. But don't forget to check out bearingarms.com. In the meantime, we're keeping you up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information, legislation, litigation, anti-gun politicians getting arrested on burglary charges. You never know what the news will bring each and every day. So again, I encourage you to check it all out at bearingarms.com. If you like what you see, I'd also encourage you to become a VIP or VIP Gold member. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SAVEAMERICA, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP or VIP Gold membership. You'll get exclusive content not available to non-subscribers. It's our way of saying thank you for showing your support, because it really does make a difference. Truly does matter in this day and age of big tech censorship, but we rely more than ever on the support of listeners and viewers like yourself. So thank you again. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.